mountain, chug a little hill, run mountain, chug a little hill, now you get your fill.
This is a story of the Greene Jones War. It was a war that riddled the entire county of Hancock County and even the surrounding East Tennessee and on into Virginia and Kentucky. It riddled the entire area. It was a feud between two families, the Greenes and the Jones, and it wasn't just considered by your last name. It was considered whose side you were on. So sometimes one of the Greenes might decide to go with the Jones and vice versa. The war has four theories of how it started. The first theory is dealing with Alfred Greene. He was what was called a ridge runner. Ridge runners were people in that area who decided that they did not want to participate in the Civil War. The majority of East Tennessee supported the Union, while there were some that supported the Confederacy. And Alfred didn't want any part of either. He just wanted to be left alone and just wanted to live his life the way he wanted to. So he was called a ridge runner. He roamed the ridges, and he was told while he was out in hiding that his wife had just had a newborn baby. So he decided to return home because he wanted to see his wife and the newborn baby. But while he was there, three members of the Jones faction decided that they were from the Union and they wanted to kill Alfred for not supporting the Union cause. So they surrounded his house, and when he went out behind the house to the milk house, they murdered him. And his bloody t-shirt is in the McClung National Museum down in Knoxville. So that is one of the theories. The second theory has to deal with Richard Greene, who is Alfred's brother. Richard had a wife named Sookie. And of course with that name, that she was teased quite often. So the Jones especially would call her like they would a cow or a pig, say, "Here, Sookie, Sookie, here, Sookie, Sookie." So Richard became very upset that his wife was being tormented, and he decided to kill some of the Jones boys for that reason. That's the second theory. The third theory regarding the Greene Jones War has to deal with Ace Jones, who has been called the Devil Ants, like the Devil Ants Hatfield of the Jones faction. He had a son by the name of Jim, who was known to be a heavy drinker. And evidently he got drunk one night and started harassing some of the Greene boys, and they killed him. But that is just the third theory. And the fourth theory is what my grandmother told me, and it has to deal with the killing of a hog. And she is the granddaughter of Hampton Greene, who was one of the main leaders of the Greene side. And his brother, Richard, had a hog. And the Jones were logging some logs onto the river and had taken down Richard's fence. And when they did that, one of his hogs got out and got into the Joneses' whiskey mash and ate it and got real sick and just destroyed his still. And so they got into a huge argument over the hog. and that's when the killing began. One of the most horrible nights was when the Greenes, with Richard and Hampton and all of the women and the children, were in Richard's home for a visit. They were surrounded by the Jones clan, and the Jones clan let the women and most of the children leave, except the men were still in there, and also was a little 9-year-old boy by the name of Jimmy. While there were, they said, probably around over 3,000 shots fired during that night while the Jones were invading the Greene home. Little Jimmy was hiding under the bed to try to be safe, and he would come out every now and again to help with ammunition. So Richard was yelling for him to come and help him load one of the guns with ammunition, and he said, "Hurry, boy, hurry, they're going to come in on us." And so when little Jimmy came up under the bed, he was shot through the heart, which killed him instantly. And so Richard, he just became so upset and just broke down and started yelling for his wife. And he said, "Oh Lord, Mama, Mama, they've killed your little Jimmy. They've killed him dead." And then the Jones finally ran out of ammunition. There was several dead. Some amputations required because some of the Greenes were shot through the arm, which in that day they had to have their arms amputated. But it was just a horrible, horrible night. And the killing went on for years. It's estimated that it went on for 25 to 30 years, on up from 1980 up until around 1900 or a little later. And one of the stories, Hampton Greene, who was my great-grandfather, his two sons were in the pen for killing two of his cousin David Greene's sons in the war. And Hamp was circulating a petition to go to the governor to try to get his sons released. And he went to the local general store, Levacy's General Store over in Mulberry's Gap, and he asked David if he would sign the petition so he could get his sons out of the pen. Well, David said no, and he drew his Smith & Wesson and aimed at Hamp, who had some type of weight in his hand, but Hamp also had his rifle. So when he shot at Hamp with his Smith & Wesson, he missed, which gave Hamp the time to set down his weight, get his rifle, and he shot David right between the eyes, killing him instantly. And then the newspaper article says that he just turned away slowly and walked leisurely home and was never charged with the murder, as it was self-defense. The war was finally stopped when the sheriff, who was a Greene at that time, he had ordered a railroad car full of ammunition and guns from the state and was billing it on the county's dime. So the governor caught word of this and researched to find out what was going on in the county. So he found that it was for the Greene Jones War, and he stopped the railroad car. And when he did, the governor then declared martial law for 7 years. So the war finally stopped. Ace Jones went into hiding for well over a year because he was to be charged with several of the killings, including one of a prominent member of the county named Thomas Berry. And Hamp went free. He was never charged with anything, as was the other Greene faction, except for his two sons. I really feel that the feud was caused by all four of the theories combined. The soldiers returning from the Civil War with all that blood and gore, and they just really didn't know what to do with themselves, along with the everyday, mundane things that happen that irritate us all. But as we know, all wars are never really caused by just one thing. It's usually a mixture of things.